Heyo! Welcome to episode 21 of Create This Book Too by Mariah Elizabeth and Ashleigh Monet, along will be me. We are back with another one and I am ready. I feel like my world is kind of topsy-turvy right now. Your girl's spiraling a little bit. And this episode is definitely going to reflect that a little bit. So maybe kind of different, but also if you know me, not really all that unexpected. Because I do things a little different here. I'm rambling though. We have 4 prompts to tackle in this episode, so enough of me talking. Let's jump right in and see what I can create. Alrighty, first prompt. Create a difference in altitude. On this page, display something you find underwater, and on this page, display something you find in the sky. So for this prompt, I'm going with a theme of ice, starting with the ice you find underwater. Ah yes, I'm sure we are all familiar with the tragic tale of the Titanic, a massive ship on its maiden voyage from the UK to the United States, only to collide with an iceberg and sink to the bottom of the Atlantic, causing the deaths of most of its passengers, over 1,500 people. Awful. Just awful. I remember when the movie came out, oh gosh, I was like in it. It was so intense. I swear I lived that shipwreck with them. I truly can't imagine being in that situation. You're just merrily on your way to a new beginning in a new country, then boom, everything changes, all because of a floating block of ice. Now suddenly the clock is ticking and you just know it's the end for you. Like death is imminent. There's no escaping it. Oh, I can't. It is truly so sad that so many people, men, women, and children alike, all lost their lives that day. That scene with the mom that has to tuck her kids back in bed because there was no way they were getting off the ship. Oh, and to know that that was literally the reality for most of the people that perished on that ship. No. F that. F ice. Next, let's talk about the ice in the sky. No lie, my first instinct was to go with a blizzard. There was one in the US in 1888 that killed hundreds. Guys. But I felt like the actual drawing wouldn't be that interesting. I thought something more dynamic could be a falling icicle. Oh yes, I'm sure we've all heard about the dangers of being impaled by a falling icicle. Icicles are already basically a big skewer, then combine their deadly shape and size with the speed and force of falling off of a roof. Like depending on the height of that roof, the distance the icicle falls, the impact can absolutely kill you. And even though I've heard of this happening, I couldn't help but wonder though, is it just an old wives' tale, like an urban legend, like it happened to one person? Is it an actual risk? I mean, how many people does it actually happen to? Turns out it's shockingly a real thing. Approximately 15 people in the US per year die from being impaled by an icicle. It primarily happens in the Midwest, and it seems like Chicago is kind of the main offender. But the problem is actually even more serious in Russia. The number there is 100 deaths per year by icicle. I think the worst part to imagine about a death like this is that you don't even see it coming. There you are, literally just minding your own business, likely walking out the front door. And then just because of being in the wrong place at the wrong time, boom, it's all over for you. Fuck that. Fuck ice. This one's going to need to look wet and glistening, so it's juicy highlight time. Okay, back to the book. Let's give the prompt a little zhuzh. Well, some bluesies in there. And glue our drawings in. So as you can see, ice can pose a threat both in the air and under the water. However, the most dangerous form of ice is not in the air. It is not underwater. It is right here on US soil. And yes, it's time to talk about it. Beyond time. I don't care who you are. As a human, you have to acknowledge that what's happening is not right. It is not okay. ICE is operating in the US under the guise of being a federal law enforcement agency. And yet their agents have next to no training. They're not held to the same standards as actual law enforcement, yet they're strapped with guns and set loose into the cities to make them safer. I'm sorry, but none of us should feel safe. ICE is murdering US citizens with no consequence whatsoever. They are snatching people off the street in unmarked vans with completely masked faces. They are targeting schools. They are taking children. Like, what the hell? I know a huge portion of the US population has very strong concerns about illegal immigration. Personally, I don't. But let's play devil's advocate. Let's stay in line with that point of view.
even with that perspective, there is a system in place for dealing with that issue. It's already in place, and that system involves due process, checking the status of immigration, conducting a civil, nonviolent arrest, and then deporting to the home country. That system does not involve murder, assault, kidnapping, taking people that are here legally, going so far as to swoop them up from their appointments. These are the ones doing it the right way. It does not involve unmarked vehicles, masked agents, and certainly does not involve stockpiling people in these for-profit detention centers. Let's call them what they are. They're concentration camps. And so many people want to talk about fraud, but nobody is talking about the fact that the DOJ is swooping up these detention centers, these warehouses, paying way more than what they're worth. There was one facility that they overpaid by $90 million. Where does that money go? Oh, it lines the pockets of whoever's donating to the campaign that they chose to buy this warehouse from, making their little buddies richer. Now that is fraud on the taxpayer dollar right in front of our faces, bigger than ever. And they are swooping them up left and right, then packing people in there like sardines, starving them, denying them healthcare, denying them hygiene. These are people, these are human beings, and that is not okay. Our Constitution, the law of the land, grants every person here, not just citizens, the right to due process and freedom from cruel and unusual punishment. If I was that person that wanted to crack down on immigration, there is still a process already in place that doesn't involve any of those things. These people are still human beings, and it is still wrong. Now, since this is my channel, my soapbox, I have to express that immigration is so incredibly low on my list of concerns about my country. I live in Aurora, Colorado. It is a very, very large suburb of Denver, but it is super diverse. That is one of the things I love about it. And living where I live, I have brushed shoulders with actual undocumented immigrants, quite a few of them. They're human beings, just like you and me. They are some of the kindest, hardest working people that I've ever encountered. And they've come here for a better life. Sorry, not sorry, but they belong here. Immigrants make this country better. The United States is supposed to be a melting pot. A big blend of different races, cultures, food, music, religions. That is what makes America beautiful. I am a third generation US citizen. My great grandparents immigrated here from Austria. My grandma was born in Montana. My mom was born in Ohio, and I was born right here in Colorado. If you look at me, you will know that those pure Austrian genes kind of got a little muddled with time. What can I say? My grandma loved her some chocolate, and then my mom liked a little dulce de leche. So now here I am, my own little mini melting pot. I am a US citizen and a total reflection of the diversity that the US represents. But you know what I did to be here? Nothing. Nada. I was born here. Did I choose to be? No. Was there any effort on my part to become a US citizen? Absolutely not. I didn't have to cross a border. I didn't have to flee in the middle of the night. I didn't have to say goodbye to all my friends and family. I didn't have to uproot my life. So why do I deserve this any more than the next person? I don't. And that's just my opinion. But the fact is, unless you are an Indigenous American, a tribe-affiliated Native American, you're only here because of immigration. Without immigration, you would not be here. And in conclusion, may I please remind you that it does not say RSVP on the Statue of Liberty. That is my PSA, but in all seriousness, the narrative that people hide behind on this, we don't want murderers and rapists and criminals in our country. Nobody does. So maybe instead of cracking down on immigration, use those resources to crack down on crime. Let's get these dangerous criminal sex offenders out of here. Maybe a good place to start is with the convicted criminal that's sitting in the White House right now. You know, the guy that's all in those Epstein files, which, by the way, are some of the most vile, demonic things I have ever read on paper. I think as a nation, we are underreacting to this. If you're not upset, you're not paying attention. But the good news is, so many people are. We are marching in the streets. The majority of us know this is not okay. And I am confident the pendulum is gonna swing the other way. It just is. Good always wins in the end, and history will remember this time. History will remember where you chose to stand on it. Just saying. What do I know, right? I'm just a stupid girl on YouTube making artsy fartsy videos, but I've always said I'm gonna use my platform no matter what size it is to talk about the things that matter. It's hard. It's hard to sit here and be creative when my mind is elsewhere. because it feels like the canyons are crumbling around me, but it's not gonna last because we're not gonna stop fighting. Sorry for the rant. Well, let's get to the next prompt.
Create a mystery. Hide something in or on this page. The idea of a mystery combined with that magnifying glass prompt doodle, I don't know. I just had to make this page clue themed. I mean, why not center the page around my very first introduction to the world of murder mysteries? Perhaps this is where the obsession with crime began. I don't know, but for those who have never played this classic board game, the very condensed version of the objective is to correctly guess the circumstances surrounding a murder. Who done it out of the 6 possible suspects, what they did it with out of 6 possible weapons, and where it took place with numerous rooms in a mansion as possible crime scenes. So the first thing I want to do is create a page that definitely draws inspiration from the Clue game board, kind of that overhead view of the mansion. But I'm going to decorate 6 rectangles to each look like one of the rooms in the mansion, and each one is going to have one of the weapons hidden inside of it. We've got the revolver in the ballroom, the lead pipe in the lounge, the candlestick in the kitchen, the rope in the billiards, the dagger in the dining room, and the wrench in the library. I'm not gonna lie, this prompt took me an astoundingly long time to complete. Like, never mind the sketching, but the line work on this page alone took over 30 minutes, and then the coloring, don't even get me started on the coloring. We're talking hours. I will say it was incredibly satisfying from start to finish. One of the things I've always loved about Clue is the kind of matchy-matchy color aspect. You've got Miss Scarlet always wearing her red, Professor Plum always wearing his purple, Colonel Mustard always wearing yellow. So if you can't tell by this point, I'm taking it upon myself to model each of the mansion rooms after one of the suspects, color-wise. That part was very fun. But the finishing details, like punching up the line work, adding depth with shading, as well as adding those juicy highlights, I chose to do that all off camera because I knew I already had so much footage recorded. So let's skip ahead. Hey, love that. Phase 1 complete, now on to phase 2. Drawing each of the suspects in front of a door that will lead to their room and hidden weapon. And let's just say, if I thought the first page took a lot of time, oh my gosh. I was not prepared for the amount of time I had to spend on these 6 little portraits of Miss Scarlet, Mrs. White, Mrs. Peacock, Colonel Mustard, Professor Plum, and Mr. Green. Hours, I tell you, hours. Now, to be fair, I was working on this page super late into the night, like we're talking 3 a.m. So maybe I was moving kind of at a sluggish pace just from being tired, but dang, come on. All of that time spent, and to be honest, I don't even think they turned out all that good. I mean, don't get me wrong, they're not bad. You can definitely tell who they are, but when you look at direct likeness to the inspiration references, I definitely think I missed the mark a little bit. On to the assembly of the page, which I was super excited for. First, I glued in the base page with the rooms. Very nice. Then I cut out the doors with the suspects and glued them over the corresponding rooms. That looks awesome. And the hidden aspect I love. Was it Miss Scarlet with the revolver in the ballroom? Or was it Colonel Mustard with the lead pipe in the lounge? Was it Mrs. White with a candlestick in the kitchen? Or was it Mr. Green with a rope in the billiards? Was it Mrs. Peacock with a dagger in the dining room? Or was it Professor Plum with a wrench in the library? Someone here is guilty, but who? Let's move on to prompt number 3. Create variety. Include as many different colors, textures, and or materials on this page. So the word choices, different colors, different textures, it makes me think of diversity. And given that we have a couple days left of Black History Month, I want to squeeze in this piece. Yes, I want to dedicate a page to the Obamas, Barack and Michelle, who to me demonstrate the pinnacle of Black excellence. Now, to incorporate the variety portion of the prompt, I want this to be a truly mixed media piece and use as many different mediums as I can to complete it. Let me say, Barack Obama becoming the first ever Black U.S. president was such a pivotal moment in my life as a person of color. Politics was often a discussion in my home growing up. Even as a child, I was always well informed of the happenings in politics. I remember the uproar in the House when the Clinton scandal broke. I remember when George W. Bush was elected and the fact that he was hammered for not being able to say the word nuclear properly.
Nuclear power, nuclear power, nuclear power.
Gosh, remember when that was the gauge of how incompetent our president was? That wouldn't even make the news today. I remember being in middle school, hoping that he wouldn't get a second term and that the war in Iraq would end. As a person of color, I grew up with firsthand experience with discrimination and systemic racism. And while I was always raised with the optimism that times had changed and race couldn't hold you back from achieving your dreams, I'll admit that when it became clear that the Democratic nominee for 2008 was going to be a Black man, even I thought to myself, does this guy even have a chance at winning? But hearing him speak, seeing his grace, his character, his family, I was filled with so much pride and so much hope. Unfortunately, I was not of voting age for his first term. I was 17 and a half at the time of the election. Just missed it. It was torture to be so close and not be able to have a say in something that meant so much. I was super bummed. But even without my vote, Obama won the 2008 election with victory in both the Electoral College and the popular vote. And man, I vividly remember the celebration that night was unlike any other. We finally had a president of the United States that represented the minorities. A glass ceiling had been shattered, and Barack walked right through it as if it didn't even exist. It's like this guy was made to be president. Now, was he perfect? No, and I don't think there will ever be a president that checks all of the boxes for all of the people, but he certainly was the best president I've ever seen in my lifetime. He inherited a mess from the Bush administration and turned it into a thriving economy. He had respect globally, like the U.S. was not a total laughingstock in other countries. Missed that. So best believe 4 years later, when I had my voting rights, heck yes, I cast my vote at the poll for his second term. And putting his policies aside, the inspiration alone that he gave to Black girls and boys all over the world to strive to be the best you could be was unprecedented. He was the proof that we could truly be anything. It wasn't just words. And his swagger, ooh girl, the swagger, I can't even. Obama was smooth, sophisticated, educated, and the woman at his side, Michelle Obama, the first Black woman to serve as First Lady, well, she was his equal in every way. They say behind every great man is an even greater woman, and I believe that to be especially true with the Obamas. Like I said, the epitome of Black excellence. And you cannot tell me these two aren't aging like fine wine. Get it. I've been rambling though. Let me catch up on what I'm doing here. So I used watercolor for their skin, alcohol markers for their hair and clothing, colored pencils to go through and add that shading and texture, then acrylic paint for the curtains that are in the background. And then I got to bust out the 2 new art supplies I got for Christmas, the Caran d'Ache Neocolors for the other half of the background, and the Derwent Inktense pencils for the flag. I really wanted to love these supplies, but I clearly need to work with them more. The Neocolors were difficult for me to predict predict. I tried to blend black with a couple of different blue tones, but once I activated them with water, the colors didn't look the way I expected them to. And the consistency once activated wasn't what I expected either. Like, I was expecting it to feel like watercolor, and while it did turn to liquid, it was still kind of waxy consistency, if that makes any sense at all. But basically, if I went over it more than 2 times with my brush, it would start to like pull itself up. Ultimately, it just created this super streaky appearance. It was odd. Not my favorite. I was optimistic about the pencils though, but to learn from my first mistake, I went ahead and swatched out the colors I was considering using beforehand to make sure that they looked right once they were activated. Although this time I found myself disappointed that you could still see the original pencil strokes after activating with water. Still, I pushed forward. I started the arduous task of filling in the flag with the pencils. That took forever. You don't need to see all that. It's done now, and I also did a coat of black over the Neo colors to see if I could darken that area more. Nope, that's still just pulling the Neo color up. So weird. Moving on to the flag, I did come to find that the pencils definitely activate better with less water. Like when I barely had a damp brush, the lines diffused completely. But then if I had more water, you could still see the lines. Overall, they worked pretty well, but did create a super kind of patchy looking end result. I might chalk that up to the fact that I had to work in little patches just because of the intricate pattern of the stars. I definitely want to try them on a large space where my brush just has like freedom to flow and see how they look that way. But then I went in with some acrylic markers to add a few fine details like Obama's curly little gray hairs, the highlights, and to fix all of those wonky stars on the flag. And this is the page finished. It is extremely warped. You guys know my cheap butt pretty much always uses just standard printer paper. So let's just say I'm totally used to this kind of warping whenever I use wet supplies. But usually this is the point where I would go ahead and Mod Podge everything. And honestly, once you add a coat of Mod Podge, as it dries, everything just kind of flattens itself back out. It's pretty cool. However, I used these 2 new art supplies and I wasn't sure how they would interact with the Mod Podge. So to be safe, I had my practice swatches. And I'm honestly bummed because even though it looks like the Neo colors appear to have held up well, the Mod Podge definitely reactivated the Inktense pencils and we have streaking. That means I can't Mod Podge this. So I guess I'm going to have to do a spray matte varnish over everything. I don't think it'll give me any problems, but I also don't know if it'll give the same like flattening the paper effect that Mod Podge does. Nope. Definitely not. As you can see, the warp is still very much there. We'll just have to hope it doesn't ripple too much when I try to glue it in the book. The spray oddly did have a reaction to the Neo colors though. It created this like whitish cast over those areas. These things are definitely odd to work with. Also, I think the spray really enhanced the spots on these stars where I touched them up with acrylic. It looks ick. So I have an idea to disguise them and bust out one more random art supply. Let's add some glitter. Ooh, shing shang, bling blang. I think that's enough. Let's glue this in. Oh yeah, and I tore the edges of the paper as well, just to give the piece a little more texture. But I'm happy with the page. I do think the likeness could have been stronger. I guess I just didn't have the eye this week. What can I say? Either way though, I will forever love the Obamas. Period. But that brings us to the last prompt of the week. Create a pedestal. Put something unusual on this pedestal. And I choose Obama. No. Just kidding. I actually was inspired by the pedestal itself. Tiptoeing back through my art history classes, Ionic columns like these, that's what they call them when they have a little curly Q scroll look thing on the sides. Those were really prevalent in ancient Greek architecture. So now I'm thinking ancient Greece. Why that meant my page needed to be purple, I cannot explain. I can't even say purple necessarily screams Greece to me. I guess I was just feeling the purple. But ancient Greece. Okay, my mind immediately goes to the Venus de Milo. I love that sculpture almost as much as I love the David. You probably know her. She's pretty famous. She's also very controversial. She is shrouded in mystery. First off, it's a mystery who she is. She is most commonly known as the Venus de Milo. That's what I call her, although apparently that's wrong. Her name is actually the Aphrodite de Milos. But it's unclear who the statue actually depicts. The most accepted theory is that she's a sculpture of the goddess of love, Aphrodite if you're talking in terms of Greek mythology, Venus if you're talking in terms of Roman mythology. However, it is also possible that she's the sea goddess Amphitrite. It's still a mystery when exactly she was created, but historians have placed it somewhere in the 2nd century BC. It's also a bit of a mystery who created her. She was originally credited to Praxiteles, But historians have since found an inscription believed to have once been attached to her that determines that the artist is Alexandros of Antioch. All these pronunciations, I'm sure I'm butchering them. But the biggest mystery of all is what happened to her arms. Her arms could answer a lot of the questions that people have about who she is, but they are missing. Now, a marble hand holding an apple has been recovered near where the statue was originally discovered, and historians have declared it a match for the stone. So it's a popular theory that she once had an arm outstretched holding the apple, and her other held the drape around her waist, kind of like this. So I'm bringing back her arms. And apparently I'm terrible at eyeballing size because these arms are way too big for her. But whatever, you get the idea. I guess it's a good thing these aren't going to be on the same page. Yes, that's right. I'm going to be gluing the Venus on one side and putting her missing arms on the pedestal. And there you have it. That's definitely something unusual on the pedestal. Who would have thought something as trivial as arms would cause such a big fuss and make a piece so famous? But with that, let's take a look back at this week's prompts. We created a difference in altitude, showing the dangers of ice in the water, in the sky, but most importantly here in the US. Ice. We created a mystery, a murder mystery themed after Clue with rooms and weapons hidden behind our suspects. I love this one. Favorite of the week. Worth all of the work. Heck yes. We created a variety. Oh, cursed glitter. Okay. I've got regrets on using that. It's everywhere. But we did use a bunch of different mediums to create this piece, an ode to Black excellence in the form of the Obamas. And lastly, we created a pedestal displaying the legendary missing arms of the ancient Greek Venus de Milo. I'll forever call her that.
I really enjoyed making this episode. I am sure a lot of feathers out there got ruffled, but I've been around here long enough that you guys should know, like, I don't stay quiet about this stuff. No way. And if what I spoke about drove somebody away, then that's probably the type of person I'd rather not have on my channel anyways. And on the flip side, if what I said gave somebody a little bit of hope, or even just made somebody on the other side stop and second think something, then that's great. Win-win. If you're still here, you are top tier. Keep your head up. We are in it together. Thank you guys so much for watching. And until next time, goodbye.